everyone. So our topic for today is about learning from others and reviewing the literature. So that is quarter 1, module number 4. So when we say literature, it is an oral or written record of man's significant experience that are expressed in an ordinary manner. It is conveyed directly or indirectly. Direct expression is in books, journals, periodic papers, and online reading materials. Indirect expression are not written or spoken at all, but is mirror image of his environment. The review of related literature is one of the main components of research study, specifically in the second chapter, or chapter 2. It gives an overview of all the writings relative to a specific topic. Therefore, selecting the right sources for the literature review is very important in producing a quality research paper. In the previous lesson, you learned the importance of understanding the value of qualitative research, its kinds, characteristics, uses, strengths, weaknesses, specificity, and the feasibility of the study. A good introductory page is a baseline statement of what and how a paper should go fluidly. However, a review of related literature will strengthen your claims of a systematic, purposeful, and well-defined research paper. In this part, you will be exploring the process of reviewing related literature. So, what is related literature or what is literature? A review of related literature is the process of collecting, selecting, and reading books, journals, reports, abstract, and other reference materials. The following information may be collected. Okay, number one, you need to look with its background knowledge about the problem and associate ideas. Focus also with the theories that give details of the presence of the problem in certain variables that is connected to the problem. Identify the data that prove the occurrence and gravity of the problem. Focus on the detailed and broad results of the related studies. And take note, always consider the gaps and recommendations of additional study specified in related studies. The significance of rationale of related literature and studies is to find out the similarities and difference between the past and present studies, to get ideas into critical and controversial aspects of the problem. Actually, it helps recognize and define a research problem. It also gives the researcher a background analysis aspect, which have been studied. In some part, it guides the researcher on what to do on the mechanism of the research methods. And this is also provides the thoughts to advance with the study until its conclusion. In some other instances, it avoids redundant duplication of a study. Moreover, reading extensively will enrich your background knowledge in your research topic that will enable you to establish a good groundwork or course of your research endeavor. Okay, so what are the criteria in selecting, citing, and synthesizing related literature? Actually, there are a lot of ways to bring in the flow of literature review that will help learners develop their research. Frequently asked questions on how to proceed in the conduct of literature reviews includes, of course, how to look for sources, how many sources should be cited, how to discuss ideas taken from the study cited, how to cite undertaking, or how to cite authors and further. Actually, the aim of this discussion is to present a step-by-step guide in undertaking a review of literature to facilitate your understanding. In the previous lesson, you learned the definition, importance, and purpose of literature review. An effective literature review selects the rights and specific write-ups that give close information to an identified topic, scrutinize and synthesize content about key themes or issues, cites properly authors of information gathered, identify similarities and differences between chosen literature, and a lot more. Because selecting, citing, and synthesizing related literature needs a thorough development of skills in searching, reading, paraphrasing, writing, and even creating your own page of article after reviewing a whole bunch of related sources. So, here are questions to guide you in this endeavor of selecting, citing, and synthesizing related literature. What is your prior knowledge about your research topic? So, as much as possible, you have an idea on your research topic. What do you have to critically say about your prior knowledge on the topic? The level of your prior knowledge. What do you want to know more about your topic? So, what question in mind? What will be the question in mind? Then, what do you want to know more about your topic? Again, then, did anyone do a similar research as yours? So, that's why you need to have a review of related literature. What does your research have that others researchers do not have? So, you just try to distinguish the gaps, and who are these authors who have works which has more or less same ideas as yours. We need to expose to a wide source of facts and conditions by a limited time frame during the conduct of study. It is necessary that you have a guided approach in reading the or reviewing various literature works that are related to your research topic. I will give you later the list to consider in an effective literature review. So here are some points to consider in an effective literature review. Now, step 1, search for the literature. There are many sources of information available such as the internet, books, peer-reviewed articles in journal, publication, unpublished works like theses and dissertations, conference proceedings, books, leaflets, posters, blogs, and other library materials offline and online. Some websites might give valuable information such as Wikipedia, Facebook, Twitter, and the likes, but they are not as dependable as other sources of knowledge, since it can be edited and considered not a scholarly article. Therefore, there is a need to carefully evaluate online sources as to accuracy and veracity of information. So furthermore, the following are key points in searching literature. In gathering sources, have focus, a clearly indicated scope and purpose of the review. Isolate the center your research on key themes or issues related to your own research interests. Choose articles which are closely related to your research interest. Choose studies conducted by experts and authorities in that same field of knowledge with your study. Peer-reviewed materials are much preferably than general sources of ideas. Step 2, reading and citing source of materials or sources of materials. In reviewing related literature, you come up with ideas borrowed from someone else. Therefore, it is but polite honesty and courtesy to learn to acknowledge other people's intellectual rights and to avoid plagiarism. The following are 3 terms to express recognition of authors' ownership of borrowed ideas. Number 1, acknowledge or acknowledgement. It identifies individuals who have contributed to the making of the manuscript written at the start of the chapter. Number 2, references or bibliography. A whole list of literary materials including all books, journals, theses, and dissertations along with other sources mentioned above. References are arranged alphabetically in some papers or in order of sequence as it comes out in the paper. This holds the summary of the information of all of your sources. Information needed in making the references list involves the following. You need to write the author's name, date of publication of the source, page number where you found the information, the publisher, place of publications or publishing, the volume number if it is applicable, edition, so for example, edition 1, revised edition, and so on, and other relevant information like date of access. So, actually, productivity is declining as the country is facing a growing population of more than 100 million, where majority of Filipino are suffering from malnutrition. This will be an example of uh, citations, no? For example, given by Divina JC in 2015. Another example, a study by Sanchez found out building food systems that are more sustainable, resilient, and responsive. Actually, there are three basic methods of referencing. Huh? So, this will be an example references as I mentioned. So, that is an APA format. Okay. This will be the three basic methods of referencing the author referred in your paper. So, as what we have here, we have the features in writing, APA systems, and MLA systems. Okay? Now, so step 3, creating or synthesizing your review of related literature. Developing your review of related literature by gathering ideas from others researchers can be done by some patterns or techniques like paraphrasing, quoting, and summarizing it. In doing so, you may either change the arrangement of ideas, structures of language by using synonyms, changing format of words by comparison, contrasts, chronological order, passive-active sentences, inductive-deductive order, or by fusing opinions with the others' ideas or author's ideas. In quoting, a part of an author's word are repeated in writing, but the page number of copied text should be written. Ideas must be essential and quoted judiciously, meaning with full understanding. In summarizing is a shortened version of the original text expressed in your own language, picking only the most important details of the text. While paraphrasing, on the other hand, permits you to explain the idea in your own words. So the following entries in each box are essential in writing references. So the heading in each table are example of correct format of referencing. Use appropriate format using APA writing style. So print sources books as what we have here. Example, the author last name. So Simban, for example. The first initial, that is JH, for example. Then middle name, no, yung H. Publication date, 2012. Book title. Then place of publication, for example, Cebu City. Then publisher, for example, Digital Books. This is an example of an APA format. So for book 2, no, so we have author's last name, first initial. In this cases, more than 6 authors, no? So this will be the format using APA. Scholarly journal articles. So author's last name, first initial, middle name, publication date, article title, magazine, scholarly journal, and of course the DOI. Okay? Then for encyclopedia, we have here an example. Same author, first initial, publication date, article title, encyclopedia title, then the URL. Okay, so this will be the references for lesson 1 and 2. Lesson 3, the ethical standards in writing. The ethical standard of research establishes the values and expectation of a research so that information generated is written accurately and appropriately in accordance to the highest moral principles of research. These ethical standards are governed by core values of integrity, confidentiality, anonymity, and privacy through informed consent, voluntary participation, beneficence, justice, and rights to review. It is important to adhere to ethical principles in order to protect the dignity, rights, and welfare of research participants. These principles are honesty, integrity, trustworthiness, openness, carefulness, respect for intellectual property, and social and legal responsibility. This lesson 3 introduces you to the ethical standard for research before, during, and after the conduct of study. Conflicts that might arise while carrying out the research and possible solutions to address it. So, in the previous lesson, you learned the different manners in style of referencing or giving credit to authors and ideas borrowed within the span of research. Such referencing acts will make your study reliable and acceptable in the research community once evaluated by an ethics review committee which sets out of the standards for research in each forum or platform where you share and present your study. This part will also give you an idea about the researcher's responsibilities towards participants or respondents, common difficulties in the conduct of research, possible solutions to answer it, or minimize risk, conflicting values, and other ethical issues that might engulf the research process. Take note, you are also required to declare the ethical review committee, no? So, we need also consider the ethics, no, of your research. So, during the conduct or during the course of the conduct of research, common difficulties may arise that will greatly affect the result of your research. Because as a researcher, one must be adept enough to foresee possible challenges to your research so that it will be resolved sooner. This will be the summary of difficulties or challenges and or issues you may encounter. Availability of respondents, especially your uh, if your proposal is or your thesis covered the entire Philippines, no? Non-cooperation or refusal of respondents to answer questions, specifically for qualitative research, no? Failure of respondents to remember data or give honest responses. Sometimes they just only check, answer the questionnaires, no? And they are not honest to response. Delayed or failure in returning questionnaire with responses, incomplete documents and record, unscientific data, no local data are available, lacking instrument, communication problems, sometimes also the most important, and the most, no, challenges actually, is the funds are tight. Okay. In every problem, there is a simple and plausible solution. And adage 1 says, here are some tips to minimize problem in conducting research. You need to ensure available funds and budget for study to be conducted. Especially if your study covered, for example, a cluster, no? Cluster sample. Team members should know their assigned task well. So, for example, if you are doing research in a team, be sure that they are knowledgeable enough in their assigned task. Identify respondents ahead of time and maintain a list of contact lines and addresses to easily follow them up. Okay? Draft a clear and reliable timeline of activities. Reproduce copies of essential documents always. Don't forget to ask for permits always before conducting any activity. As much as possible, conduct ocular inspection of research or sample site ahead of time. Always send emails, communication, and appointing beforehand, either through text, better if through letters, that must be formal. Have a clear written agreement with all participating persons, agencies, and areas. And we need to bear in mind that objectives of the study and be flexible in adjusting to present situation when necessary. This will be the scientific misconduct might arise when ethical standards are not followed, such as of the following. Of course, the plagiarism, the fabrication of data, the falsification of data, and of course, the non-publication of data. Encounters and to ensure ethical standards are followed, ethics review committees usually require research studies to undergo review proceedings by submission of pertinent documents that will verify the truthfulness of data, information, and paper presented. So this will be the following are some of these check. Okay? So of course, they need to have a checklist for adult sponsors. If of course, will include parent consent and advisor's consent. Student checklist, of course, human participants form, and for scientific researches, so research institution and qualified scientist form, human participants form, vertebrate animals form, potentially hazardous biological agents form, and hazardous chemical activities form. And at present, of course, the data privacy. Okay? Another thing that we need to consider, the research plan. You need to discuss the summary of the rationale, the hypothesis, the methods, risk assessment form, which evaluates the extent of hazards posed by the conduct of research, the research abstract, which is not more than 250 words, that clearly and concisely state the purpose, procedures, data collected, and conclusion of the research, and the research logbooks, no? With start and end dates, pictures, documentation, notes during the course of research that show detailed and accurate processes. So, okay, so this will be the references in APA format. So, Braceros, Buensoceso, Prieto, Ridley, Sharp, na? And of course, the module also gathered so this module was pulled together with help from the following websites. And of course, this information, this presentation content is done by the Department of Education. So thank you very much. Thank you everyone. I hope you've learned from this discussion. Quarter 1, Module 4. Good luck and Godspeed everyone.